Hi guys, and welcome back to the Crochet Tour YouTube channel. In today's video I'm doing another episode of Tor Tries, and I'm taking a bit of a break from releasing new patterns because I've just done a whole load over the past few weeks, which I hope you guys have really been enjoying. But today I'm actually going to be reviewing a book, so I'm going to be reviewing this book. So this is Kawaii Crochet, and this is written by Melissa Bradley. And I'm also going to be showing you the items that I've made from this book. So I've made quite a few. I'll give you a bit of a sneak peek of a few of them. So this is just a couple of the things I've made. This candy floss and this hot air balloon here, but yeah, I've made some more than just those. So if you keep watching, I will show you those later on in this video. And yeah, I'm going to be splitting this video up into a few different parts. I'm going to put chapters at the bottom so you can skip to whatever you're interested in. So I'm going to start off with just giving you a bit of information about the book itself. Then I'm going to give you some information about the author. Then I'm going to show you what I've made from the book, and then I'm going to talk you through what I liked and disliked about the book, and then finally I'm just going to conclude on things that I've learned from the book, and then overall, like, would I recommend that you buy this book or not. So yeah, that's what this video is going to be about. So if you're interested in finding out more about this book, then keep watching. So to start off with, this book is available, it seems, in most normal places that you can get books from in the UK. So Amazon, eBay, I've seen it on Book Depository, and I've seen it on Waterstones online. You may be able to get it in the actual shop as well, but I don't know. I haven't tried looking for that, but I'm sure you probably can, or you can do some sort of click and collect. So yeah, it's available at most sort of book sellers within the UK. I'm not sure about abroad, but I imagine that you can get this quite easily in America and other places as well. And again, I'm not 100% sure if this is printed in different languages. I think when I looked on Amazon it looked like it was just in English, but yeah, maybe you could have a little look into that if you need it in a different language. So the book itself was published in December 2019, so it's a fairly recently published book. And the price at the moment, it looks like it's around £13. I don't know whether it's gone up or down since it's been published, because I didn't actually buy this book. This was kindly gifted to me as a birthday present, so I'm not sure how much they paid for it, but I imagine that it was probably around £13, which is a reasonable price and quite standard for a crochet book like this. Then in terms of the number of patterns that you'll get in this book, there's 40 patterns, which it does say on the front here, and they are split into the different colours. As you can see, that's kind of the theme of this book, all the different colours, which is really nice and pretty. So the colours that there are in this book are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink and brown, and you get 5 patterns for each of those colours. But I mean, there's not really anything to stop you from changing the colours within the patterns themselves, but some of them you can't really, like for example, it would be a bit weird I guess if you made like a purple apple, but you can. So if that's something that you'd want to do, then there's no reason that you can't do that. And then in terms of the difficulty level, so I would say that overall the patterns in here are pretty easy, to be honest, and even the ones that are labelled as intermediate aren't that difficult. But then again, it's kind of hard for me to judge as someone that's been crocheting for years and years and is very experienced. So I don't know, I think that most people would be able to follow the majority of these patterns if they have some level of experience, and to be honest, beginners could probably follow a lot of the patterns in here, if not all of them. But you would have to, I guess, have a little look at the reviews on Amazon from people that are actual beginners, because there's quite a few on there, and most of them say that they were able to follow the patterns, although there are maybe a couple of trickier patterns. For example, I think some people said that the peas in the pod pattern was a little bit difficult to follow, but I didn't have a go at that myself, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, I would just have a little look through the Amazon reviews if you're quite beginner and you're not 100% sure whether these patterns are suitable for you, but in my opinion they probably are. And following on from that, the stitches that are used in this, most of them were pretty standard. So most of it is just your single crochet, your double crochet, your increases, decreases, slip stitches, a bit of chaining and things like that. but all of the stitches are explained at the front of the book, or it might even be the back of the book, I can't remember. I didn't read through it properly myself because obviously I didn't need to know that information. I knew how to do all of the stitches that were in the book, but that is a standard inclusion for a crochet book, and I'm sure the instructions are probably fairly easy to follow because I found the way that things were explained in the patterns was quite clear, so I imagine that the stitch description is probably quite clear and easy to follow, and again the Amazon reviews seem to suggest that that is the case. So yeah, that is all of the information about the book. So now I'll move on to a bit of information about the author. As I mentioned previously, her name is Melissa Bradley. It seems like she's American and she's been crocheting for a while, I believe. I don't think it said exactly when she started crocheting. There's a little bit of a blurb about her in the back of the book, but it seems like she has a kind of design background. I think it said she has a degree in interior design and she's also a florist, so I guess she loves all types of creative things. And she actually has quite a big following on Instagram, so her name on there is Yarn Blossom Boutique and she has about 35,000 followers, but she hasn't posted for quite a while, so I think her last few posts were about this book, and then I haven't really seen anything for the last few months, but maybe that means that she's working on something else and she's too busy doing that to post, or I think she's a mum as well, so maybe she's just busy with her children. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's something else that's going to pop up from her again in the future, because it looks like this book has done quite well. By looking on Amazon, there's about 1,000 reviews of it, and you know, most people that buy the book aren't going to review it, so you can imagine what kind of level of sales she's probably had there. And I don't think she has any other crochet books out. I couldn't see any others on Amazon anyway, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she's working on some other crochet book to be released in the near future, so I guess we'll keep an eye out and see if she releases anything else. But yeah, that's basically all of the information that I could find about Melissa. So now I'll move on to showing you what I actually made from the book, which I think is probably the most interesting part. So I made one item from each colour, except for some reason I decided to make 2 yellow items. I don't remember why I decided to do that. It was a while ago that I made those now, so no idea what the rationale was behind that, but enjoy the extra bonus item that I made as well. So I'll show you the ones that I made that are easy level to start with, so you can see what they kind of look like. So for the orange item, it was a pumpkin. And this is perfect for Halloween, obviously, coming up, so yeah, I really like this one. Then the 2 yellow that I made were both easy level, and this was a banana and a lemon. So yeah, again, there's a bit of a food theme with this book as well. I didn't mention that before, but most of the patterns in here are food. There's a few that aren't, like the heart and stuff, but majority of them are food. So yep, the green one I made was also easy, and this is a Christmas tree. Again, Christmas coming up fairly soon as well, so this is really cute. I really like that. Then the pink one was candy floss, another easy one. And then the final easy one that I made was the brown pretzel, which is quite funny. I don't think I've ever seen a crochet pattern for a pretzel before, but yeah, I like that. I really like pretzels, so yep, I'll be displaying that in my little office room, I think. So those were all the easy ones, and then the slightly more difficult ones, which are labelled as intermediate, I made 3 of those. I think there were fewer of those in the book. I don't think I've gone through and counted how many easy and how many intermediates there were, but I feel like there was more of a like shift towards there being more easy patterns in the book rather than intermediate, but yeah, I couldn't quantify that for you, sorry, I didn't make a note of that before I made this video. But anyway, the intermediate ones I made are popcorn. Not gonna lie, this one was a bit tedious making all the little popcorn bits, and actually in the pattern for this one I think they said to make like 20 bits of popcorn, but I got to about 12 I think, and I had enough, so I just left it at that. But I think it looks fine with just that number, so yep, that was the popcorn. Then for the blue one I made this ice cream, which is really cute. Well, all of these are really cute, I mean that's the idea, it's kawaii crochet. And then this one is the hot air balloon for purple, And I think this might be my favourite out of all of them. I'm just having a think now. Obviously, I like the pumpkin and the Christmas tree because they can both be put out as like specific decorations for Halloween and Christmas. But I think this one may be the cutest. Yeah, I just like it with the little basket at the bottom. But anyway, that's everything that I've made from the book. As I mentioned, there's 5 patterns for each of the colours. So I've only made... How many have I made there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've only made 9 out of the 40 patterns, so I'm not even 25% of the way through the book. So there is quite a lot to get through in there. And in terms of what exactly I used in terms of like materials and stuff, I think I used 6mm safety eyes, which is what is recommended in the book. I used embroidery thread for the mouth, which I think may have been recommended in the book. Potentially DK black yarn was mentioned, but any sort of black thread or yarn that you have would be fine for the mouth details. And then I think that the book recommends using Aran cotton yarn with a 3.25mm hook. But I didn't have cotton yarn, I only really have acrylic, so I just use acrylic for all of these. And then I only had a 3mm crochet hook. Mine, like my crochet hooks go up in increments of 0.5mm, so I don't have 3.25, so I just used a 3 and that worked out fine for all of these patterns. So yeah, if you only have acrylic yarn and you only have a 3mm hook, you should just be able to use those and it should not be a problem. So yeah, that's everything that I made in the book. So now I'm going to talk about what I liked about the book and what I didn't like. So I'll start off with the things that I did like about the book. Firstly, most of the patterns are pretty quick. I would say that pretty much all of them were maybe sub 5 hours. I can't quite remember how long it took me to do the popcorn because that was, like I say, a bit tedious doing all those popcorn pieces, but I think that the other ones were probably less than 5 hours. Some of them were really quick, like the lemon, for example. I don't even know if I took an hour doing that because that was quite a simple one. So that's really good because if you just have an evening spare and you just want to make something and you want to finish it within the evening, you can definitely do that with most of these patterns. So that definitely fits in with people that kind of have a busy lifestyle maybe and don't want to be constantly picking up and putting things down. They just want to finish something in an evening. Maybe you're making a present for someone. This would be sort of the perfect book to follow in order to make something cute for someone for their birthday or Christmas or something like that. So that's one thing I really like about the book. And also the fact that the items are quite small is useful in that you can use up any scrap yarn that you have that maybe you've lost the label for and you don't know exactly what brand it is, so you don't want to start making something big with it because you know that you won't necessarily be able to buy that colour again, or you just want to get rid of some yarn that you've just got laying around that you just never pick up. So that's what I did for some of these. I just used some scrap yarn and I was really happy to kind of use that up. So that's another thing that I really liked about the book. The third thing that I liked as well is for the eye placement, the instructions were very specific which rounds you should be placing the eyes at and how many stitches there should be between the eyes. And I like that because sometimes I do try to obviously follow the pictures in books or whatever, but sometimes I can't quite work out what the person who wrote the pattern did. So it's really handy when someone just clearly lays it out like that so that you can easily copy exactly what they did. Then another thing that I liked is that the faces themselves are all the same and they're very simple. So they each have, actually this probably wasn't the best example because the cheeks aren't very visible in this one. So you see how they each have like these little cheek bits, a sort of V-shaped smile, and then the eyes, that's the face on all of them, I think. So that's really easy, and once you've done it once you can just copy it again and again and again for all of them. So I like that, and it's hard to mess up on the face because it's so simple, and sometimes the face can be something that's really difficult to get right. So at least with these ones, because it's so simple, yeah, you're pretty much always going to make something that looks cute, unless you do something really weird. But yeah, I just can't think how you'd mess that up, so I quite liked that. And then the final thing, which is a kind of like and also potentially a dislike depending on what sort of experience you have with crochet, is that a lot of the intermediate patterns, as I mentioned, were actually quite easy. I wouldn't necessarily have called them intermediate, so that's good if you're very beginner and you sort of struggle to follow patterns. That might be a good thing for you. But alternatively, if you're an advanced crocheter or you've just got a fair bit of experience, then you might not find this book very challenging at all. So if you're after a challenge, I would say this definitely isn't the book for you. So yeah, that's kind of like a good or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. And then I will move into the couple of sort of dislikes that I had about the book. Obviously I liked it as a whole, but there's a couple of bits that I wasn't too happy about. So the first thing was just that it was a bit disappointing that at the beginning of the book they have 3 difficulty levels laid out. I think it's beginner, easy and intermediate, but then within the book there's only easy and intermediate level patterns, so nothing has actually been designated as beginner. And I don't know if this was a mistake in the publishing, because I think that some of the patterns in there could definitely have been designated as beginner. For example, this lemon that I showed you, this is really basic and definitely something that I would consider a beginner level pattern. So I'm not sure why this wasn't designated as so in the book. And obviously it's not really a big issue for me because I'm not a beginner, so I know I can sort of work out for myself what looks like it's going to be a challenging pattern and what isn't. But for someone that is a bit more new to crochet, it might have been more helpful for them to have these beginner patterns pointed out to them so they know which ones they should start with and then build up to the more intermediate and easy ones. So that's one slight disappointing part of the book, but it's not a huge issue. I mean, I guess even beginners can probably look at something like this compared to something like this and they know that this is going to be a lot easier. So maybe I'm just underestimating how much knowledge even beginners have about crochet, but yeah, that's just one thing to point out about the book. And then the second thing, which this is kind of a bit of a reach because to be fair, there are 40 patterns in this book, so it's very hard to come up with 40 individual patterns, and being a pattern designer myself, I know how much effort it takes just to come up with one pattern. So yeah, but all I would say is there is a little bit of repetition in the book, so you'll find that, for example, this ice cream, there's a few different variations of this to cover different colour combinations, and I think it's the same with not exactly the popcorn, but kind of like this bowl design, and then there'll be like cereal in some of them, which again it's just to basically add extra patterns to a particular colour, which is fine because, as I mentioned, it's hard to come up with 40 different patterns and it's already a good price for 40 patterns. But again, I just thought I'd mention that you're not going to get 40 exactly unique patterns. There is a slight bit of overlap between some of the patterns, but it might only be 10 in the whole book, so there's still quite a lot of uniqueness to each of the patterns within the book. So not a big point, but just something that I thought I'd mention as well. So yep, that's everything that I liked and disliked about the book. So now I'm just going to talk about what I learned from the book, because whenever I do other people's patterns, I always like to reflect on it and think, what will I do differently in my patterns moving forwards, and what things did I like with their technique that maybe I haven't thought about before. So there's 3 main things that I sort of learned from the book. The first one is with this lemon, for example, I find this quite effective, the little cheek detail matching another detail on the item. So in this one, the leaf colour is the same as the cheek detail colour. It's not something that I think I've seen before in other patterns, and it's just something simple. It's only like what colour you're picking for the cheek detail, but instead of just using a standard pink, I actually really like this, and I think it looks quite cool that it matches another part of the item. So that's something that I might use in the future if I'm ever going to do sort of like a kawaii pattern like that. The second thing is that the pattern itself doesn't have to be overly complex to be effective. So a good example of that would be the banana. I wouldn't consider this to be a particularly complicated pattern, but it's really effective what she's done, how she kind of got these little the banana skin effect like this. So yeah, that's another thing. You don't need to over-engineer a pattern. Sometimes something really simple is actually quite effective. Even the lemon itself, which is very simple, I would still say is quite effective. So yeah, and then the third thing that I learned from the book is just a specific technique that I quite liked, which was leaving so when you're crocheting in a round, you crochet in the back loops only, and obviously that leaves the front loop available in that round, and that allows you to go back to that round and do some additional stitches if you need to. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So with this tree, that's the technique here. So you're leaving those front loops available so that you can go back and crochet the kind of ruffle effect afterwards, and that is a technique that I have used in some of my patterns already, like Weeping Bell, leaving those loops open so that you can use them at a later point. So that's quite a clever technique and something that I'm probably going to use a bit more in the future, and just bear in mind if there's ever something where that would kind of fit the pattern. But yeah, that's a bit more of a technical point, that one. And yeah, I would say those are probably the main things that I have learnt from the book. So now the final conclusion, would I recommend the book? The answer is yes, but I would caveat that with, I really do think this book is more aimed towards the beginner to intermediate level, which kind of makes sense as that is the levels of pattern difficulty that are supposedly within the book. And I would say that it may be a bit too easy for advanced level crocheters. There's not too much challenging patterns within here. I didn't really find any of those patterns that I did challenging, but they were still fun to do. And I think that if you see something on the front cover here that you're like, oh, I'd really like to make that, or maybe there's a few items rather than just one, because £13 is a lot of money to pay for just one pattern that you're actually interested in, then yeah, go ahead and buy the book, because if you like 5 of these items, then you know £2 or £3 each for a pattern is the sort of price you'd be paying on Etsy anyway. So you know, then you're still getting some bonus additional patterns that maybe, I don't know, you can share with your friends or something like that, or you can make some additional stuff for other people. But yeah, I really do think that this would be a good present for like anyone that you know that's getting into crochet or is just starting to be able to follow written patterns rather than video tutorials. This would probably be the book for them to start getting them into following written instructions. Or just anyone that likes kawaii crochet. I still think if you're an advanced level crocheter, you might get some enjoyment out of this, but I think a lot of this stuff, if you're sort of at the level where you can design your own patterns, or you kind of know how people have made stuff just by looking at it, you probably don't need the instructions from this book. You could probably just figure it out for yourself, but that's just my opinion. And as I say, like, yeah, if you look at this and you think, oh, I'd like to make some of these things, then by all means go ahead and buy it. And I do think it's very good value for money. Like I say, 40 patterns for £13 is, I can't remember like exactly how much that works out at per pattern, but that's a good price per pattern. So yeah, definitely would recommend it. And that is basically the end of my video. So I hope that you found this informative, and maybe this has helped you decide whether this book is for you or not. And yeah, feel free to check out my channel for I've got some other crochet book reviews on here and some pattern reviews, and I also obviously create my own patterns and do tutorials for them, so do feel free to check out my other uploads. And yeah, thank you for watching this video, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye guys.